The key to this video essay was provided by the Italian thinker Antonio Gramsci. He argued that the most effective form of power is not brute force, but cultural hegemony, when the ideas of the ruling class become the common sense of everyone, when their lies come to feel like natural truths. That's precisely what I've chosen blockbuster films. This construction of common sense happens mainly through stories, and the most powerful, widely consumed stories of our age are blockbusters. My aim is to unmask the imperialist logic embedded within them, to show how they fabricated a worldview that justified colonial domination. And in number one we have Lawrence of Arabia, the foundational myth of the white savior. According to the film, T. Lawrence, an eccentric, handsome and sensitive British officer, creates the Arab revolt, leads disorganized tribes and gives them purpose. Colonization is presented as an enlightened, almost mystical personal mission. The hidden reality is that Lawrence was an instrument of the British Empire, which systematically betrayed the Arabs with the Sykes-Picot Agreement, carving up their lands with France, to dismantle the Ottoman Empire and replace it with their own colonial rule. There was no liberation, only a change of owner. And in number two, we have Pocahontas, genocide repackaged for kids as a love story. According to the film, the English colonization of America is a clash between two worlds that can be reconciled through the exceptional love between a native princess and a handsome, hesitant English settler. The conflict is reduced to the evil of a single man, Governor Radcliffe. The hidden reality is that Pocahontas, whose real name was Matoaka, was around 10 or 12 years old when she met John Smith. She was later kidnapped by the English, converted to Christianity, married to another colonist, John Rolfe, paraded as a curiosity in England, and died of illness around age 21. Disney performs a dangerous magic trick for the nursery, turning the foundational violence of America into a romantic parable that erases history. This is how imperial common sense is built from the cradle. It is the perfect fable to ensure that conquest feels like destiny and genocide reads like a love story. And in number three we have Zulu, invasion as heroic defense. The film is about a handful of outnumbered British soldiers who bravely defend a remote outpost against waves of anonymous and, of course, savage Zulu warriors. The hidden reality was that the British were invading the Zulu kingdom to annex its territory and resources. The battle was an episode in a colonial war of aggression. The Zulus were not mindless hordes. They were defending their homeland from a technologically superior invader. The film does well in inverting victims and aggressors. And the African Queen makes number four, colonialism as a romantic backdrop. In this film, set during the First World War in East Africa, we see an attractive and dangerous setting in the journey of self-discovery and love between a rugged captain and a puritanical missionary. The hidden reality was that the war in that region was a brutal colonial conflict, where Germans and Britons, by force, recruited thousands of African porters, many of whom died. The film turns this historical trauma into exotic scenery, where Africans are just extras or picturesque obstacles. Colonial suffering is invisible. Only the white protagonist's personal growth matters. In number five, we got Casablanca, anti-fascism as universal moral drama. The moment I always highlight is the scene where La Marseillaise, sung in Risk Café to drown out the Nazi officers, is presented as an icon of resistance and patriotism. It shows selective anti-fascism, tears for occupied Europe, silence about the occupied Maghreb. It uses the colony as a neutral and exotic stage for a drama among white people, erasing the political reality of the place. The hidden reality was that this scene takes place in Morocco, a French colonial protectorate. It weeps for the freedom of France, the colonizer, while completely ignoring that Morocco was occupied by them. Number 6. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Racism as family fun. In this film, India is presented as a dirty, chaotic, superstitious, and grotesque place. Disgusting food, bloody cults, charming poverty. Indiana Jones, the handsome, funny white archaeologist, must save a passive village from its own evils. The hidden reality is that this narrative reinforces all the stereotypes of a decadent Orient created by British colonialism. It omits the brutality of the British Raj and India's rich history of resistance. Number 7 is Hotel Rwanda, when a genocide loses its history. This time the narrative focuses on an individual hero, Paul, and on the failed and shameful Western intervention. The hidden reality is that this film eclipses the historical roots of the genocide, Belgian colonialism. Belgium institutionalized the ethnic divisions between Hutus and Tutsis, creating the racial categories that would later explode. By focusing on the rescue drama and Western guilt, the film depoliticizes the massacre, turning it into an outburst of inexplicable tribal hatred instead of the logical consequence of a colonial system designed to divide, classify, and rule. Number 8 is Darkest Hour, the cleansing of an imperial icon. This film shows Winston Churchill as the grumpy but brilliant old lion, a defender of democracy and freedom against Nazi tyranny, a true hero. The hidden reality is that the picture omits his colonial and racist record. He was the architect of the Bengal famine. He supported the British concentration camps in Africa. He advocated for the use of chemical weapons against rebel tribes in India. He promoted air control and poison gas in Mesopotamia. He supported the Black and Tans in Ireland, a paramilitary police force that murdered civilians and destroyed property during the Irish War of Independence. He backed forced labor in East African colonies, opposing to improving conditions for Kenyan workers. And well, I will stop here, as the list is much longer. And James Bond makes number 9, glamorized neo-imperialism. During the Cold War, the 007 franchise sold the fantasy that the British spy, and by extension the Western world, was a sophisticated, irresistible, and morally superior gentleman. His enemies were megalomaniacs like Spectre or Soviet brutes. The world was his adventure playground, from Jamaica to India or Thailand. The hidden reality was that the West, with services like Bond's MI6, maintained its control through coup d'etats, assassinations, support for dictatorships, and the destruction of independence movements, as it happened with the assassination of Patrice Lumumba in the Congo and Thomas Sankara in Burkina Faso. Bond's agency defended a global order where former colonial powers continue to decide the fate of exotic countries, now in the name of freedom against communism. Bond is the cool face of neocolonialism. And the last film in our list is Exodus, the Zionist foundational epic. It shows the creation of Israel as a heroic struggle by Holocaust survivors and socialist pioneers. The hidden reality is that it completely omits the Nakba, the Palestinian catastrophe of 1948. The over 700,000 expelled Palestinians do not exist. The documented massacres they just seen do not exist. Please allow me to dwell on this a bit longer, but it's because Holocaust cinema, from the Diary of Anne Frank to Schindler's List, The Pianist, The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas is a pillar of Western culture. The problem is that this empathy gets hijacked. It's twisted to sell a single story, that the Holocaust logically and morally justifies a Zionist state. No questions asked. There are over 600 Holocaust feature films produced in English or by Western studios alone, from 1945 to today. If we include TV productions, miniseries, and documentaries, the figure easily beats 1,200 titles. So, we have reached the end of the road. This list is just a starting point. The examples could multiply, but I really don't want to bore you any longer. So, adios for now.